Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome everybody to MACFEST 2024. Assalamu alaikum from Los Angeles, from France, and from the UK. Tell us in the chat where you're watching us from. Today we've got a really unusual event about comic books. And our host for today is Gabrielle Adlestone. She's a mother of 3 girls and a grandmother to 3 adorable under-3s. She's a former modern languages teacher, and currently she's a trustee of a domestic abuse charity and a magistrate. She loves theater, cooking, walking, rubbish box sets, and travel. And so please, as we go along today, if you have any comments or any thoughts you'd like to share, put them in the chat or in the Q&A portal. Thank you so much for all your donations that help us create those wonderful events. Most of them are free. We still have a couple of really nice events coming up before we finish MACFEST this year. So please keep looking on Eventbrite. Stay connected with us on social media. MACFEST is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We use the hashtag #SpreadHoneyNotHate. Please use that hashtag too. And if you are an artist based in the Northwest in England and you're a Muslim, we invite you warmly to submit your artwork still before the 8th of July through MACFEST website for the MACFEST Arts Awards. The submission process is free. So over to you, Gabrielle.
Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to David in LA. I'm going to tell you a little bit about David before we hand over to him for his, I'm sure, very fascinating chat that he's going to talk to us. David Hirsch currently serves as advisor to the Mohammed bin Rashid Library in Dubai. He served as the librarian for Middle Eastern, Central Asian, South Asian and Islamic Studies at UCLA from 1989 to 2018. He holds the title of Distinguished Librarian and was named Librarian of the Year at UCLA in 2013. Mr. Hirsch received his MA in Middle Eastern Studies and a second MA in Library Science from the University of Chicago in 1990. He had previously obtained a BA in Oriental Studies from the University of Pennsylvania in 1980. His first professional job was as a member of the Near East cataloguing team at Firestone Library at Princeton Uni. Mr. Hirsch moved to UCLA in 1989, where he initially served as Near East bibliographer and gradually added on responsibilities in Central Asian, Armenian, South Asian and Islamic studies. Since arriving at UCLA, he has worked closely with UCLA's Middle Eastern print collections as well as the Islamic manuscript collection. Mr. Hirsch has worked as a special coordinator at UAE University's Zayed Central Library in 93 to 94 and 99 to 2000. He also served as chief librarian, then libraries advisor at the Abu Dhabi National Library from 2009 till 2011. Mr. Hirsch has been a member of the Islamic Manuscript Association since 2006 and has served as a board member and chair of the association's cataloguing subcommittee. He is a 3-time past president of the Middle East Librarians Association and was the 2016 recipient of the David H. Partington Award for service to the profession of Middle East librarianship in 2016. He has a special interest in Middle Eastern diaspora communities and their literatures, as well as new genres of Middle Eastern literature, such as zines, graphic novels, comics, and manga. He is a native of Philadelphia. So David, over to you, and we cannot wait to hear what you've got to tell us.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Gabrielle. One thing that I would like to note is that I'm actually retired now. I retired in February of this year from the Mohammed bin Rashid Library, and I'm now a man of leisure in Los Angeles. So I would like to mention it says that I'm going to be talking about comics, but I'm actually going to be talking about Arabic comics, comics in the Arabic language. And a lot of people don't realize that there is a comic tradition in the Arab world. So Arabic comics are a significant component of popular culture in the Arab world, and they offer a distinct visual narrative that reflects the region's diversity. The first Arabic caricatures appeared in the magazine Rawdat al-Madaris, a magazine published by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information in Egypt in 1870. And then a more important magazine was published in 1877 in Egypt, and it was called Abu Nadara, the man with the glasses. And it was edited by an Egyptian Jew named Yaqub ibn Sanur. And then there was also another early one published in Lebanon called the Dabur, the Wasp, and a Kashkul in Egypt. These were all early children's magazines, and these early comics often focused on the adventures and moral lessons of different characters and mirrored Western comic trends, but with local cultural and social nuances. In the 1950s to the 1970s, this was considered to be the golden age of Arabic comics. There were several iconic comic magazines that were launched, such as the Samir in Egypt in 1956, and Sindbad, which also began in the early 1950s. So Samir was launched in 1956, and these early comic books featured educational stories, puzzles, and the adventures of the titular character. And another important one was Mickey, which was Mickey Mouse, obviously, and that started in 1959 in Egypt. And it was the Arabic version of Disney's Mickey Mouse. And this character, this comic magazine brought these beloved characters to Arab readers, blending local elements with the global appeal of Disney. So it also had an Arabic element, an Arabic and Islamic element. So, for instance, I'll show you a little bit later slides which include Mickey Mouse in Islamic garb. Let's see. So each year they also had a special Ramadan edition, and I'll show you some examples of those. Now, this magazine, Mickey, was issued in colloquial Egyptian Arabic, but it had some literary Arabic as well. As some of you may know, Arabic has something called diglossia, which means there is the formal written language, and then there is the colloquial Arabic language. So Mickey was a mixture of the two. And Mickey went on from 1959 until 2003. But then another Egyptian publishing house, Nahdat Masr, continued producing the magazine until 2004. In 1979, an important magazine began in the United Arab Emirates. It was called Majid, and it's still being published to this day. And as I said, it started in 1979, and people would flock to their local grocery stores or newsstands on every Wednesday in order to pick up a copy of the magazine, and it went around the house to all the different children in the household, and was often shared with neighbors. Now, in addition to these that I've already mentioned, there were a number of magazines that were translated or adapted from other languages, such as Tintin, Lucky Luke, Little Lulu, Superman, and Batman. And from the 1980s onward, Arabic comics faced numerous challenges, including economic downturns, political instability, and competition from other forms of media, such as television and video games. Many comic magazines struggled to maintain circulation, and several iconic titles were discontinued. Arabic publishers faced problems with the content of translated comics and manga, either because of excessively violent or sexual content not appropriate for the Arab world. So, for instance, if we cannot, in the United Arab Emirates, we could not have any comics with any kind of sexual or violent content. Those were immediately deemed inappropriate for our local audiences. Also, there are very few incubators or studios for developing this kind of content. So one of them, which I'll be showing you pictures of later, is called Sandstorm. That's one of the recent ones, which was recently opened in Abu Dhabi. And it is an incubator for the production of Arabic manga and comic content. And also teaches youngsters about the technical issues of producing manga and comic content. So in addition to Sandstorm, there are two other publishers in the Arab world which have comics divisions. One in Egypt is Mahrousa, and another one in the Emirates is Kalimat. Kalimat is a well-known children's publisher in the UAE, and actually Mahrousa is quite a well-known publisher in Egypt. So they have both started comics divisions in response to the demand for this type of content in the Arab world. So, and as I mentioned before, many of the superheroes that are known and admired in the US and the West, such as Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and Mickey Mouse, are also well known in the Arab world. There's also some translated characters which have been culturally adapted for the Arab world. Grandizer, or Goldrake in French, is a well-known robot hero, and he has an Arabic theme song, which when young people hear it, actually not even so young, when people hear it, they are known to break out into song spontaneously. I remember I was in Saudi Arabia at a manga conference. I was invited to speak about the history of Arabic comics. And when I mentioned Grandizer, the whole audience, both men and women, started singing spontaneously. Ali, Ali, Abatal Fleet. I'm not a singer. You have to forgive me. But anyway, the entire audience broke out in song, singing the Grandizer song. And also, he's known for his regional appeal, and it began being published during the civil war in Lebanon. And at that time, the whole Arab world was in grief because of the events in Lebanon and also in Palestine. And growing up in Egypt during the civil war, one comic publisher, Rochdale Saadawi, said that Grandizer shaped her entire childhood. She said it was such a beautiful escape from a horrible childhood in terms of the insecurity of the war and of all the things that the children don't really understand but still feel impacted by. So anyway, it was a very important comic at the time. And I've talked to Arab publisher friends of mine, and some of them, to be honest, are rather humorless. But when they hear Grandizer, their eyes light up, and they said, "Oh, Grandizer! I remember Grandizer from when I was a teenager." And he was a mighty robot, and this is the kind of stuff that every Arab kid's dreams were filled with. And originally, it ran for about 2 years, and they had from 75 to 77, 1975 to 1977, and there were about 74 episodes. And I think it's one of the most popular foreign icons in the Arabic-speaking world. So the status of comics has become much more recognized recently. They're now part of school curriculums in Saudi Arabia and in Jordan. A Saudi publisher now produces 2 different magazines for free. One is called Al-Manga Al-Arabiya Lil-Atfal, Lil-Sighar, and another one is Al-Manga Al-Arabiya Lil-Shabab. So one for children and one for teens. And they are both produced to encourage leisure reading. They're produced for free. They're distributed for free in the United Arab Emirates and many other Arab countries. And if you go to the front of any of the major bookstores in the United Arab Emirates and also in Saudi Arabia, you'll find this magazine available for free. And now, in addition to the 2 magazines, they're also producing graphic novels. So comics are now part of university curricula, such as the American University of Beirut. And that university also has a Center for Arabic Comic Studies, and they have an annual award for this award. The most recent award cycle included 400 entries from 15 different countries, and 45% of the participants were women. So women, female mangaka manga writers, and female comic publishers are both around, and they're increasing in number. Let's see what else here. Yeah, there's also a publisher in France called Aleph Bata ABC in Marseille, and they issue translations of works by Arabic comic artists. Algeria is a prominent producer of comics and manga, but mostly in French. There's also an annual festival of comics and manga in the capital, Algiers. Contemporary comic books often tackle social issues, political satire, and personal narratives, providing a platform for diverse voices. A few notable works and creators include The 99, created by Dr. Naif al-Mutawa. The 99 is a superhero comics series inspired by Islamic culture and history. The 99 refers to the 99 names of Allah. So each of the heroes has one special power, such as Al-Basir, means the one who has the all-seeing. So his superpower is supervision. Okay, there's also Metro. It's a comic, a graphic novel by Magdi Shafi'i, and this novel is known for its gritty, realistic portrayal of life in Cairo. And it was originally banned in Egypt because it portrayed a negative view of what happens in the subway in Cairo. There's also a web comic called Al Qahira. It's by an Egyptian author named Dina Muhammad, and it features a Muslim superheroine who fights against misogyny and Islamophobia. Also, to promote comics, there are a number of comic conventions and festivals which have played a significant role in the resurgence of Arabic comics. Events such as the Comics Festival and the Middle Eastern Film and Comics Comic-Con in Egypt, in Dubai, provide platforms for creators to showcase their work and also for them to network and engage. Several initiatives aim to support aspiring comic authors in the Arab world. Workshops, training programs, and collaboration with international comic artists help to nurture local talent and to promote professional development within the industry. For example, the Omani government has sponsored a series of comics that present important Omani landmarks to young audiences, and the UAE government has produced a series of comics promoting awareness of local culture and customs through a young Emirati boy named Hamdoun, who was returning to the UAE after a long period of residence abroad. Arabic comics have a rich and varied history, evolving from early adaptations of Western styles to unique, culturally resonant narratives that address contemporary issues. Despite past challenges, the rise of digital media and increased support for creative industries suggest a promising future for Arabic comics, with the potential to reach and inspire new generations of readers, both within the Arab world and beyond. As I mentioned before, comics are now part of the curriculum in school curriculum in Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Let's see, wait a second here. Okay, I think now it's time for me to move on to the slides, and there'll be a little bit of repeat of things that I already mentioned, but I'll hopefully when you see the slides, you'll remember what I was saying during the brief talk. Okay, so here's some examples of magazines relating to comics in the Arab world, books and magazines. You can see in the middle, the black one, that says Al-Watwat, which means the bat, and that's the Arabic version of Batman. And Muqtatafa, okay, that's okay, go on. Okay, these are examples of the early magazines that I mentioned. Abu Nadara on the left is the one by an Egyptian Jewish author, Yaqub ibn Sanur, and the two on the right are Habazbuz, which is an Iraqi magazine, because it was a satirical magazine produced in the 1880s. Next. Okay, these are two of the older comics magazines. Well, on the left is Al-Fukaha, which just means humor, and the one on the right is Al-Kashkul, which was a well-known Arabic magazine in the 1920s. Yeah, I especially like the colors on those. Next. Okay, so I mentioned before there were a lot of translations from other languages into Arabic and also adaptations. So on the left we have Mickey Mouse, and as I mentioned, there was Mickey Mouse was adapted to the Arab world and Arab culture. So in the left, Mickey Mouse is wearing his special galabiya for Ramadan, and in the middle is Lucky Luke. It was also translated into Arabic, and Tintin or Tintin on the right, which was originally French-Belgian and was translated into Arabic. Okay, and then on the left here is Samir, the one that I mentioned that was very popular from 1956 until about 1960 in Egypt, and Basim, which was from Syria. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't Syria. It's from Saudi Arabia. Both children's magazines in manga style. Okay. Yeah, this is Sinbad, which ran for many years out of Egypt. Very popular Arabic comic. And this is the one that I mentioned before. This was Majid, which is produced out of the United Arab Emirates since 1979. And it's issued weekly and very popular among the Arab public until today. And here's Superman and Batman. Superman on the left, Batman on the right, and both translated from English or adapted from English, and extremely popular for many years. Okay, these are two that were out of the Arab diaspora community. The Arab of the Future on the left. It's come out in four different it's a series, so it's come out in four editions so far. And on the right is the Arab in America, which tells the stories. It's autobiographical story of Tawfiq Arasi, who talks about his life growing up as a child in the Arab world, and the differences between himself and other children. So one of the things he talks about was growing facial hair. He was 10 years old and he already had a beard, and the American kids were all kind of pale and pasty. Okay, this is a graphic novel produced out of Saudi Arabia, Hijab Girl, and she's a Arab superheroine. Okay. This one is produced out of Saudi Arabia. It's called Quyud Sauda, Black Bonds. And on the left here, we have Adam 101, which was one of the earliest manga in the United Arab Emirates. It's produced by the American University of Dubai Manga Club. And on the right, we have Gold Ring, Sawara Dahab, which was the first full-length graphic novel produced by a commercial publisher in the United Arab Emirates. Okay, Ajaj. This is an Emirati magazine book. Actually, it was produced in 7 issues and then discontinued. But it was issued by the Arab Identity Authority, the Emirates Identity Authority. And that's an organization which promotes promotes knowledge of Arab culture and Emirati customs to be in particular. But there's both issues of the same magazine. That's okay. Okay, this is Asar, which means storms, and it's a Saudi Arabian manga produced by Muhammad Tamimi, and he's a Saudi national, lives in Al Medina, and he produced about 5 or 6 issues of this magazine, and then unfortunately he started producing it online, and then it stopped. But I think he's going to come back, and it's very nicely done. But you can see that the characters all look very Japanese anime, and I think he has he's been to Japan many times and is very familiar with the Japanese art of anime. And the festival that he produced in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, also incorporated a lot of Japanese artists who came to give lessons in production of anime to Arab youth. Okay, this is a 619. It's an example of a Tunisian Arabic comics magazine. Okay, these are 3 examples of smaller Egyptian comic magazines. The left one is called Tuk Tuk. The middle one is called a Shakmagia, which is, it means a jewelry box. And on the right is a Garage. I think both Tuk Tuk on the left and Garage on the right are still being produced in Egypt by two twins, Haytham and Muhammad. I forgot their family name, but they have moved from Egypt to the United Arab Emirates, I guess, for better economic opportunities. Okay, Samandal, which means salamander. It's a Lebanese comics magazine, and it was produced for a number of years, and then it was stopped by the Lebanese government. Now I believe it's being published once again. It's a little bit, the language is sometimes a little bit inappropriate for most Arabic libraries, but it's an important magazine. Okay, these are 2 Sudanese comics magazines. Subyan was produced for over 40 years in the Sudan, and Simsima is a more recent one. Unfortunately, due to the current situation in Sudan, I don't know how much comics magazines are being produced. Lab Store, this is an Algerian manga and comics magazine, more manga than comics, I guess. You can see again the kind of Japanese style illustrations. The 99, I think I had mentioned this before. That's produced by Dr. Nayef Al-Matawa. He's a psychologist in Kuwait, and produced this magazine in 6 different languages. And as I mentioned, the 99 refers to the 99 names of Allah, and it's to encourage Islamic values. Also, in addition to the magazine, he also had a theme park called the 99 Theme Park. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. Some of the Islamic authorities didn't feel that this was an appropriate, that the 99 was an appropriate, 99 Names of Allah was an appropriate subject for comic books. Okay, next. Okay, this one is a comic magazine produced by Syrian refugees in Turkey. It's called Al-Fashal, which means failure. And unfortunately, they only produced about 4 issues. And this was issued in about 2000, or the early 2000s, at the height of the war in Syria. So many Syrian nationals found refuge in Turkey, especially in Gaziantep, in southeastern Turkey. Even though they were refugees, they maintained their sense of humor and sense of satire, and produced 4 issues of this magazine. We have 2 of them at UCLA. I don't think it's held anywhere else. Next. Okay, now, as I mentioned, there are a number of festivals in different parts of the Arab world which provide access to, you can find a wide range of comic and manga publications in one place. So the actual manga artists and the manga publishers both are usually present at these different festivals. So here's the Tunisian Comic Con. And this is the Tangiers Comic Con, Tangiers, Morocco. And this one is the Algiers FIBDA. FIBDA is Festival International de Bande Dessinée, and about Bande Dessinée Algérien. So the Algiers International Comics Festival. So they refer to comics as bande dessinée. So that's an annual festival. It's been going on for many years, and it's probably one of the largest ones, and with a strong tradition. This is the Dubai. Is this, I think, Dubai, or is it Kuwait? Can't see it. Oh, this is the Dubai one, Middle East Film and Comic Con. And this is Saudi Arabia. You can see, with the Saudi flag in the middle, under the thobe. And this is Comic-Con Kuwait. I don't think that's on a regular basis. But they've had a couple at least. And Lebanon Comic-Con, still quite a strong tradition despite the civil war and other tragic events there. Egypt's Comic-Con. And then this is a book relating to comic books for libraries. So it's become really a recognized field. So librarians, we have different reference tools to help us develop our collections in different subject areas. So comic books are now an official subject in libraries, and this was a book which provided guidance in how to collect them. Okay, and this is something called a LibGuide. And librarians in different universities and other academic institutions provide guides for their users in order to learn how to use and how to find information on different subject areas. So this is a LibGuide from the American University of Beirut, and it provides information on the tools available for users if they're doing research on comics. And this is the American University in Beirut. They have an annual award for comics, and this is from their Center for, I think this is for the Center for Comic Study. Yeah, just showing that there is a Center for Comic Studies and that there's an award for comics in the Arab world. And this was a conference held on Arabic comics in the United States. And then they had an exhibit of different Arabic comics so that people in the US would be aware of comic studies as well. These are two graphic novels. The one on the left, I mentioned before in my talk, by Magdi Shafi'i. It's called Metro, and talks about the gritty nature of Cairo. And as I mentioned, it was banned for some time because it presented a negative point of view about the negative portrayal of the metro in Cairo. And I Remember Beirut talks about the civil war in Beirut, in Lebanon. Okay, and these are the two that I mentioned regarding presentation of Arab culture and national culture and national identity to children. So the left one is Hamdoun from the United Arab Emirates, and the little boy in the right of the picture there is Hamdoun, who had been raised overseas with his parents. And when he comes back to the United Arab Emirates, he really does not know how to fit in culturally. And he spends time with his grandmother, who teaches him about Emirati customs and morals. And the one on the right is produced by the Omani government, and it's called Athar Biladi, the remnants of my country. I'm sorry, not remnants. Archaeological remnants of my country, and it shows different forts and different important locations in Oman, presented for a youth audience. Okay, this is an encyclopedia for Emirati children, teaching about Emirati culture. So it has articles about all different subjects for a young audience. Okay, this is the new publisher that I mentioned in Abu Dhabi, These are two books published by Sandstorm Publishing in Abu Dhabi. One is called, the one on the right is called the Kingdom of Sands, and the one on the right is called Barut, which is gunpowder. And these were two produced within the past year. Okay, and this is there's a Grandizer. So Grandizer magazine on the right, and to the left is just a portrait of Grandizer. He's also available in the form of little movable dolls. So and still quite popular, and I think he's going to be relaunched shortly. Okay, and the magazine that I had mentioned, Manga Arabia, which is produced out of Saudi Arabia by one of the larger Saudi publishers, and the one on the right is the one for the teens, and the one on the left is for children, and they are issued free in and distributed in different bookstores in the United Arab Emirates and in Saudi Arabia and other countries as well, I believe. And they were both launched in 2021, and they're both going strong. And this was something very popular, especially during COVID. You could still get the magazine, not as easily. In fact, a lot of the venues that distributed it were closed, but you could still find it. And I did manage to get a complete collection for our library at the Mohammed bin Rashid Library in Dubai. And we also have some issues here at UCLA. I don't know how widely it's available because it's not easy to subscribe to it because it was distributed for free. So a lot of the booksellers didn't want to carry it. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. They've also begun to produce graphic novels, not just the comic books. So they're now actual individual novels for youth and for teens. Okay. Okay, and I guess that's basically what I had prepared for you for today. I know sometimes I talk too fast, and if you have any questions about what I actually said, please feel free. I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Hi, David. Well, that was really interesting. I mean, I don't think I had any idea that there was such a big comic culture in the Middle East. So I think
and it's growing.
I think that's really enlightening. Did you always love comics as a child?
As a kid, I think most kids have experienced a comics phase at some point. I didn't have any Arabic comics as a child, but I did have English ones, and I liked Superman and Batman and Aquaman and all of those. I don't know if Aquaman is available in the Arab world actually, but Superman and Batman certainly are. But I think I liked Mickey Mouse. We also had classic comics, which were stories presented historical material presented in comics form, such as Davy Crockett or let's see. I remember a lot of them as a child, but now I can't remember the names there. But they were historical comics.
Do you think it's a good way to promote reading for children, to get them to read comics?
It seems to be popular in the Arab world. I do think it's a good way to get them started, and then you have to find it's a way to get them started reading. And once they find a subject that they like, then they can hopefully transfer it over.
Because I know it's really hard sometimes to get little kids to read, so I think you've just got to get something that grabs their attention, haven't you?
Yes,
and then,
exactly.
Be able to go from there. And another question I'd like to ask you is, do you think that there is a place for this comic culture to promote kindness and tolerance
I definitely think so.
Through the world as a medium that might reach out to some people who might not react to another type of medium, but this might be a good way to get them to do these things.
I do think so, especially to promote tolerance and knowledge of the other. So I mean, I've seen comic books which teach about other cultures, and I think that's something that we really need to try and promote, so that people become more familiar with other cultures.
Yeah, it's a gentle way maybe of doing
Yes.
it, with a bit of
Yes.
humor, but it might maybe listen, anything that works, which is
Yeah,
effective.
as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, the content of some of the comics is a little bit violent. So you have to really vet the material that you put in a library or that you bring home to your kids to make sure that it really does promote your values and aspects such as kindness and tolerance.
And is there do some countries have stronger censorship rules than other countries?
Oh, absolutely. I can say that in Lebanon there's not so much censorship there, but in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, you have to be a little bit careful. They really are. They are protective of their societies, and they don't want undesirable elements to be included in libraries. Undesirable elements in the books, not undesirable elements of people. But they don't want to see undesirable elements in their libraries. If something is excessively violent or excessively sexual, it will not be permitted.
And I also picked up that you said there's more and more female manga writers these days. Do they have to write?
Comics, yes.
Do they have to write under? I mean, is it acceptable in the Middle East for women to be writing these things, or do they have to go under false names?
Some of them have pseudonyms, and some of them do use their own names. There are even some veiled women in the United Arab Emirates that have their own comics and manga.
Wow, so that's quite brave, maybe, of them to do that.
Well, I think things are changing slowly, but I think some of them, it's still, maybe their families would not consider it appropriate for them to be public in that way, especially if they're not married. So.
Well, I think, does anybody else have any questions? I could probably sit here and ask you questions all afternoon or all morning for you, but
ask away.
Do any of our other participants have any questions that they would like to put to David?
I have a question, Gabrielle. Did you ever have any favorite comic books?
Oh, I don't know, do you know? I don't think I was a big reader, but I was an Enid Blyton girl.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I really read that many comics. I'm not a huge magazine reader now. I prefer books to magazines, but
magazines were nice because they were short, and you could read a short article. You didn't have to read a whole book.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
And when you're a kid, you don't always have that long an attention span.
Well, I think that's why comics are very appealing, aren't they, to children? Because it can grab them, and it's a bit like it's probably good for the TikTok generation these days that have only got a very limited mind span anyway. It would seem that maybe comics are going to make a huge comeback.
And David, do you have any like? I know that you've mentioned in your presentation those events for comic lovers.
The Comic-Con, comic festivals, yes.
Yeah. Well, have you ever been to one of them, or like what is this? Because it's a huge culture. I'm aware just a little bit of that, but I've seen photos from events like that, and they looked absolutely amazing. There were people dressed in characters.
In the characters, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to one. I actually participated in one in Saudi Arabia. So, and that people always are surprised. Really, they have a manga festival in Saudi Arabia, and yes, they brought me specially to Saudi Arabia to talk about the history of Arabic comics.
Oh wow!
And I think they were just as, oh wow, there's an American who's interested in Arabic comics. So yeah, it was really a fun experience. And they brought people from Japan to train manga artists, because that's where the anime art originated. So they had these 2 or 3 different Japanese comic artists who came and presented. And they also brought people that were specialists in video games to perform in front of an audience.
Interestingly enough, we've just come back from Japan, and manga is so strong there that actually you see the people dressed up in the streets. They actually want to be the cartoon characters. It's really fascinating to see, and there's whole districts that are just dedicated to comics and the characters and the people dressed up like them. It's very different from UK, but it's very interesting to see.
Now, I should mention also that in the United Arab Emirates, at least in the library where I was working, that Japanese manga were very, very popular. We had a whole section there. The Arabic manga were not as popular as the Japanese manga. And a lot of kids have even learned a certain amount of Japanese so that they can understand the manga.
Well, I think it's been... Sorry.
No. Please.
No. I was going to say, no, go ahead, please.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry. Well, I think it's been absolutely fascinating because I don't know if any of our participants want to ask questions, or we've kind of hogged the questions, but it's been absolutely fascinating and really talked about something about which I had absolutely no idea at all. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. It's a growing area. I think you'll see more about it in the future.
Amazing.
No questions from the audience?
Oh, hang on. I think we
I'm
have a
muted.
question.
No, I can't see any questions.
I see someone. See a
No.
composer. Somebody from Canada disappeared. Oh well.
I don't think we have any questions, do we?
Okay.
Well, let's give it 2 minutes. If anybody would like to share any thoughts or ask any questions, this is a really good moment. And before we close today, I just wanted to remind everybody that we've got a couple of events coming up that it's really worth also watching those. We've got an event with Pakistani artists, calligraphy, carpet weaving, and miniature painting tomorrow at 2 o'clock UK time. We've got a live event at the Science. Oh no, sorry, that's tomorrow. So if you're based in Manchester or around Manchester, you probably can make it. It's called Eat Science Extravaganza at the Science and Industry Museum. If you look at that event on Eventbrite, MACFEST Eventbrite, you won't be able to get tickets. But if you go straight to the museum or you go to the museum's website, you will be able to get the tickets. And then on July 13th, we've got Nasheed singer and composer Ilyas Mao from Canada. And Sunday 14th of July, we've got Emirati culture, cuisine, and heritage. And we also have a brilliant event on July 20th, Abdullah William Mosque and the first Muslim community in the UK. Also, I would again like to remind any Muslim artist based in the Northwest, we've got open submission process for artworks for Muslim Arts Awards. It's for any Muslim artist based in the Northwest. And so we've got 4 categories: painting, drawing, calligraphy, and photography. And your art can be of any topic. Submissions are free. Then you've got a chance to see your works on an open exhibition at the University of Salford, and also win one of the 4 awards, 1 in each category, and there's going to be 1 overarching award. Yes, so I can't see. Oh, we do have a question. What role do comic books play in education and promoting understanding of culture and values?
Well, as I mentioned before, they are used to promote culture, the Emirati culture and values, and also Omani culture and values. I can't say if that's common throughout the whole Arab world, but there are at least two examples that I mentioned earlier. The one to promote knowledge of the Omani antiquities published by the government of Oman, and Hamdoun, the Emirati comic published to promote Emirati values and culture to young Emiratis.
Thank you for that. Thank
Sure.
you. Are there any other questions? I
Yeah,
can't
I've
see
got
anything in the
one more
Q&A.
question, David, actually.
Sure,
What
please.
are you going to be reading on the plane over from when you leave LA today?
Well, to be honest, I think I'm probably going to try and sleep because I haven't slept well for the past few days. I came back from Dubai. I returned to the U.S. about 3 months ago, but my shipment of 72 boxes just arrived, and I've been working on trying to get that in order before getting on this flight. And once I get to the UK, I'm going to be quite busy. I'm going to a wedding in Nottingham,
Nice.
and then I'm going to Edinburgh. I should talk to Kaiser about that, and then I'm going to York, and then back to London, and then home. So I've got
Wow.
a pretty busy 2 weeks coming up.
Busy schedule. Well, wishing you safe travels.
Thank you
And
so much. Appreciate it.
thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you to both of you. Gabrielle, wonderful hosting. Thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see our audience again tomorrow and then next week on our upcoming events. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting me.